So if your job description says curator of ideas, then what you do is go out and find ideas, find them proactively. New, fresh ideas, relevant ideas, ideas with a potential impact. Keeping in mind that there is a difference between ideas and stories. Interesting, cute stories, life journeys, pearls of wisdom, personal epiphanies don't necessarily make for an idea worth spreading. And that's what we are going to search for. Ideas worth spreading. Accent on the word in the middle of this sentence. We have focused way too much on the first word for many years. We need to pay attention to the second word. And that's where our responsibility comes in. Finding the ideas is really just the beginning of curation, although many seem to think that it is what curation is about. No, that's just the beginning. And when we have found the idea and the speaker carrying that idea, that's really where the game of curation starts. And this is a very important point. Ideas are not only the responsibility of the speaker. It's not because the speaker says yes and is somebody important and relevant and has done great stuff that he or she can just walk on stage and say whatever they want to say. The curator is there to help them shape the talk, to help them create a great talk. And this is true for big things, for creating the arc of the narrative, for making sure the argument is solid, for making sure the talk is complete, as well as for small things, like how to start a talk.
Hi. Yeah, I want to talk about why happiness is a serious issue. In fact, why I think it's probably the most serious issue. I was quite excited to be coming to your city, home of Barcelona. I didn't put a picture up of Messi today because I thought maybe. But I was remembering your Olympics, and it's obviously a few years ago, but I remember these amazing images of these divers over the city, and a few other things from the Barcelona Olympics. And of course, we in London, in my city.
And he's searching for the beginning of the talk, and he has not started the talk yet, right? The talk is about happiness, and he's desperately trying to find the beginning of the talk. So part of curation is also helping speakers figure out small things, like how to begin a talk, how to end it, and other things that I want to tell you in a moment. Now, even if the beginning of the talk the speakers wants to use is absolutely brilliant, it doesn't mean that it's good. There is a duty to be skeptical about what a speaker wants to bring on stage. Watch this.
In the 1920s, a state-of-the-art airplane looked like this. A Newport 17, topping a speed of 200 kilometers per hour. One of the most powerful airplanes of World War I. Drugs in the 1920s looked like this. This is aspirin, a champion drug of the 20s, relieving pain for millions. And aspirin came in the form of a pill. Moving to the 60s, airplanes became even more powerful. Here, a Tupolev 134 now traveling at a speed of 1,000 kilometers per hour. Drugs in the 1960s looked like this. And they came in the form of a pill. Fast forwards to the 21st century, an F-22 Raptor, one of the most advanced fighter jets of all time, now traveling at a whopping speed of 2,400 kilometers per hour. And drugs in the 21st century look like this. And they came in the form of a pill. And today, aircraft can look like this. Spaceship Two by Virgin Galactic, it goes to freaking space. And drugs today still come in the form of a pill.
And it's cute, right? Everybody here has been laughing, so it's actually getting the audience. But you can have a different version of this.
In the 1920s, a state-of-the-art airplane looked like this. A Newport 17, flying at 200 kilometers per hour. It was designed with wings and a tail attached to a central fuselage. Drugs in the 1920s looked like this. This is aspirin, a champion drug relieving pain for millions still today. And aspirin came in the form of a pill. Moving to the 60s, airplanes like this Tupolev still had two wings, a tail, and an elongated fuselage. They just traveled faster. Drugs in the 1960s had become much more sophisticated chemical compounds. Fast forward to the 21st century, the F-22 Raptor is yet again faster, but it still comes with two wings, a tail, and an elongated fuselage. While drugs in the 21st century started becoming patches that you didn't have to ingest anymore. And today we are building spaceships, and they are much faster, but still have wings and tail and fuselage. While drugs today are becoming highly precise and targeted nanobots.
So you see how we can turn around the story, right? Now, I'm not picking on this specific speaker and not picking on TEDx Berlin. Actually, they're doing a great job. It's just a good example. It's a good example of the fact that there is a temptation to embellish the story, to make it cute for the sake of cuteness. And you want, as a curator, to work with the speaker to avoid this kind of things. The funny thing is that his talk is actually very powerful. Later in the talk, he talks about, it's about how to apply Moore's law to pharmaceuticals. And he has incredible numbers. For example, at a certain point, he says, of all the pharmaceutical inventions since 1945, only 3% were cures. All the others were actually just treatment of symptoms. Around that, you can build a powerful talk. But if his version and my version are as convincing, it means that both of them are bullshit. And calling out speakers on their bullshit and on the stuff they try to put into the talks that don't belong there is part of curation. It's actually a central part of making a great talk, because curation, yeah, thank you. Because curation doesn't end when a speaker is invited and confirmed. It actually starts there. And here is how we need to think about it. When people give us 2 hours, 4 hours a day of their time to come and sit in our audience, what they give us is some of their attention and some of their time. And time and attention are the most precious resources. Once you have given them, you cannot get them back, and you cannot replicate them, and so we want to use them as best as possible. We want the talks to be great, relevant, inspiring, solid in facts and in a narrative, etc. And believe me, speakers are craving help. I know that many of you right now are thinking, yeah, easy, Bruno, you're TED, you can tell them whatever you want, and we can't. Actually, speakers are craving help. They never get, or rarely get, very explicit feedback. By the way, if you want some words that typically appear in scripts and drafts and are a hint of some bullshit to come, these are the words. These words should never appear in any TED talk, if you ask me, ever, okay? 2 or 3 tricks, there are many, and there is a full manual on the TEDx Hub and plenty of other things, but a few things to help a speaker think about their story. The first one is story first, slides after, especially for speakers who are experienced in public speaking. Very often they have a huge slideshow, and then what they do is they go through the 150 slides, they pick the 30 that they want to put in the TEDx talk, and then they start thinking about the narrative that will link those slides to each other. And you should actually actively discourage them from that. First, the story. First, we want a draft, we want an outline, we want a written story, we want to agree and discuss about what the story is about. And then we figure out how to illustrate it, right? Which is a completely opposite process, but that's when PowerPoint and Keynote are right. And starting from the slides is when you get to death by PowerPoint. So that's the big tip you can give speakers. Second one is suggest. One of the most important things is when you give feedback to a speaker, don't only say, this doesn't work. You need to change this. There is something missing here. But you need to add, and here is how I think it could work. This is what you could add. This is a way to rephrase that element. So if you offer a solution and not only pointing out the flaws, the weaknesses, the problems, maybe they don't take that solution, but they see there is one. And that incites them to continue working with you to prepare a better talk. And the third one is about helping the speaker position the talk correctly. This goes back to what I said before about great stories are not necessarily great talks because they're not necessarily about ideas. Inspiration is not only about the feeling of hope, it's not only about coming out of a very difficult situation and re-emerging full of energy and beauty. It's not only about the heart, it's also about the mind. And TEDx talks are mostly about the mind, and the heart comes in only when it is relevant. Many, many strong talks, many, have been ruined by a few things. They've been ruined by the speaker ending the talk with a sort of pretense uplifting story, or with a call to action because we are all together in this, or with this kind of things. This is my grandmother, this is my daughter. And these things actually end up making the audience often feel that the speaker is trying to manipulate their emotions, especially if they have nothing to do with the subject of a talk. What is my grandmother doing in a talk about neuroscience? Unless the talk is about the experience and experiment I did with my grandmother about her Alzheimer's, right? And but seriously, this happens all the time, right? And you want absolutely to avoid that to happen. And another thing that is worth looking at is stuff that doesn't belong in a talk. Typically, jokes and other things, but also information that kind of takes a detour out of what the talk is and doesn't belong there. This is an egregious example.
I would like to talk to you about a very special group of animals. There are 10,000 species of birds in the world. Vultures are amongst the most threatened group of birds. When you see a vulture like this, the first thing that comes to your mind is these are disgusting, ugly, greedy creatures that are just after your flesh, associated with politicians. I want to change that perception. I want to change those feelings you have for these birds because they need our sympathy. They really do. And I'll tell you why.
And you should stop there. And you see that the politicians have nothing to do with this talk. That's a cheap shot at them. It's a cheap joke. It doesn't make any sense in there, but he got a laugh, and that's why he did it, right? So we want to avoid this kind of things. They actually weaken completely the perception of the talk. They make it a non-serious talk. And even if what follows is incredibly strong in terms of the science, that cheap shot at the beginning makes the whole talk perceived in a very completely different way. By the way, have you noticed that about 50% of the talks start with one of these sentences? That's also something important, how to start a talk. Possibly avoiding people saying, hey, I'm here on this stage at CERN today in Geneva, where you don't know you are, because I'm here to talk, which you don't know I'm about to do. And, Okay, and that leads to a couple of final points. One is, we talk a lot about authenticity, and we think that being authentic is about going on stage and just be yourself. And there is some truth in that, but authenticity is not about that. Authenticity is about preparing to give your best talk and express and share your best story. There is no authenticity in a half talk, in a half-baked story, in a story that doesn't land, in a story that doesn't inspire anyone because it's just improvised. Improvisation is not authenticity. Preparation is authenticity. Preparation towards your best possible story and talk. And the last point, I don't think actually have to make it because Antonella Jay before asked and you answered, and it is there to cancel. If it doesn't work, even if you are a week from an event, the speaker is not engaging, the draft is horrible, the story is not what you expected it to be, cancel. You will see Tuesday 15 speakers. There were 16 until 5 days ago. We did cancel one. Actually, we pushed him to cancel himself by putting him under pretty tremendous pressure, me and Katarina, and he ended up saying, "Okay, I'm going to stay home," and that's good for everybody because it would have been a very poor performance. So I will stop there. Thank you for now.